GeorgeNotFound finally responded to the allegations that his consent was not found regarding another streamer that goes by Bugs. And I went over her story yesterday where she went on stream and talked about how she went to VidCon and ended up going to Dream's hotel room where a bunch of people were hanging out, including George, her best friend, and a couple of other people, totaling around 8 people in the room. They were all playing drinking games. She had just turned 18 at the time, and apparently George knew this, and yet he was still flirting with her. And then the next night, they went back to the hotel room, to which things escalated even further, and that is when she says that George sexually assaulted her. So let's go ahead and pull this up so we can start yapping about it. But basically, I'm just going to show you George's response here. There's actually a lot to go through, and there's just some other things I want to go through with you, so I'm not going to be able to show you this entire response. But basically, in a nutshell, he just says nuh-uh and finger wags to everything, but he does have some decent proof backing up some of his claims.
At the time, she was 18 and I was meeting them in real life. I didn't even know who they were before meeting them. And then we essentially just were playing drinking games in the hotel room. We were just having fun, talking with each other. Nothing crazy in particular. Now, one thing Casey said retrospectively, looking back at the scenario, is that I was flirting with her throughout the night and that she was uncomfortable with this because of our age difference. At the time, she was 18 and I was 26. She actually assumed I didn't know her age because she had never said it. But then later, I had actually DM'd her on Instagram. And because of this, she says that it is confirmed that I know her age.
So that's his first rebuttal, is responding to saying that she was under 21. He knew that, and yet he still pursued things with her, even to a point where she didn't want it, and he still was trying to get with her.
To give some context to this scenario and to why I didn't know her age, my perspective of things is that I am with people that are over the age of 21 in a scenario where we are doing things that people that are over the age of 21 are doing, like drinking. And also the people that came from an event where they had very heavy security. This was an official VidCon after party. And with previous VidCon after parties, I even had problems getting into these events.
So he brings up the point that there was very heavy security at VidCon, and he goes into the story right there where I cut it off, saying that he has a UK ID, and they wouldn't even let him in because they weren't familiar with UK IDs. So in his mind, these people were all 21, and they were all, vetted by the insane security, so there shouldn't have been an issue in his mind.
And also, since Katie's stream, I've gone back and reviewed texts from the time, and there was actually a picture where it was shown that they had this 21 plus wristband on one of their wrists.
And now I've seen this on Twitter, people responding to this specific image, him using this over 21 wristband on one of their wrists, saying that, well, if she had the over 21 wristband, then it's all on her. It's her fault. But I gotta say, man, that this picture doesn't really prove jack shit. So far, this whole situation is just word of mouth. There isn't really any evidence on both sides, I admit that. But I'm gonna be more so inclined to believe someone that is the victim here, because she has no ulterior motives as to why she would be doing this. And now that's not to say people don't make false accusations, but not every accusation is false. Just the same way that not every accusation is true, though. But regardless, this image here doesn't really prove anything, because it's not showing that it's on her wrist, or even really anyone's wrist that is involved in this situation. It's just a wristband that says over 21. But even more so, I want to say that even if she had this wristband on, her age isn't the main issue here. Even if she was wearing this wristband, that still doesn't give you an excuse to sexually assault her. That's the issue people have, not the age. And on top of that, he later admits, sorry, spoiler warning, he later admits that she was drunk before she got to the hotel room where they started playing drinking games, even further solidifying the fact that she was drunk, therefore she wasn't in the state of mind to consent in the first place.
Nothing actually particularly happened at this first night that we were hanging out. Everything was very friendly. We went our separate ways.
And I'm not going to show you everything in this response, because it's basically, he just basically confirms that her timeline of events were correct, pretty much. There's not many differences. They hung out the first night, nothing happened. That's exactly what she said. And then they hung out a second night, and he does say like a few differences, bringing up that they didn't really want to hang out and that the girls were the ones that kind of were insisting on hanging out, and she says something different.
So something I actually want to point out before I continue with the rest of the story is the way that she phrases some things in her story. Instead of saying that her and the rest of her friends actually wanted to come to the hotel to hang out with us, she said that one friend was invited by Dream, but she didn't want to go alone. So then they decided to go along with her because they were willing to go anywhere. I just think it's important to note already that the story is slightly different from the reality of it. And I'll be mentioning this a few more times throughout. They were all trying to come to the hotel, and it wasn't just oh, we're willing to follow her, essentially. They were all in the group chat and part of the discussion to go to the hotel.
I will agree there that from those messages, it does seem that they were very willing to go, but then she also does bring up the point that they were drunk during this time, so they were willing to go anywhere, which kind of just solidifies what she said, that they just wanted to accompany their friend and they were drunk looking to have a fun night. And one thing I forgot to say, I was going to say this at the beginning, but I forgot. I'm just going to throw it in here now. No need to redo everything. But people were bringing up and just commenting on my last video saying, oh, this seems so genuine. She had to write down what she was going to say. She's reading off her phone. It seems like it's really coming from her heart. Being really condescending and sarcastic, saying that it doesn't seem genuine, she doesn't seem sincere, and that they basically were saying that she was lying. And now I'm genuinely curious what their response would be to George not doing his side of the story live. This isn't actually a live stream. He did live stream it, but at the beginning of the live stream, he says that it's pre-recorded and edited. He even edits in the pictures and stuff. That's how they're popping up on the screen, and there's cuts in the video to cut out dead air, as he says. So what's your response to that? Is that him being genuine and real? So which one seems less genuine now? Her live streaming and just reading off of a phone to make sure that she's actually talking about what she wants to talk about? Or George live streaming a pre-recorded and edited video?
It doesn't really add to the story, but she never mentioned him or the eighth person that she brought with. So I'm just saying it because that's how it happened, and I want to make sure the story is straight.
And he also brings up that she never brought up the 6th, 7th, or 8th person, the other friends that she brought along with her. But to me, this doesn't really seem like an important part of the deal. It seems like he's sort of using it as a gotcha to kind of make it seem like she is a liar, pants on fire, or something along those lines. It doesn't really, I feel like it's not even really worth mentioning who all was there, because the only people that matter in this situation are you and her at the end of the day.
And at this point, I was pretty drunk, and so was basically everyone in this room. It was the last night of VidCon. VidCon's a pretty stressful time, and honestly, a lot of people are happy when it's over. Not that they didn't like it, but it's just a stressful event. There's a lot that you have to do, and when it's over, you're just happy and you want to celebrate. So at this point, we then moved to the couch. There was a couch in the room, and I sit next to Katie. She also says, looking back on the scenario, that she confused her nerves for excitement when I sit next to her. But again, at this moment in time, everything was friendly. Nothing sexual had happened. I'm just literally sitting next to her on the couch. And during this, she was laughing, smiling. She gave no indication that she was uncomfortable with me sitting this close to her. She also mentions that she was thinking about my age and that I was a lot older than her. Again, she was 18 and I was 26 at the time. And again, to clarify, I actually didn't know how old she was, despite her claiming that I did, just because it was in her bio. And it was clear to anyone there that she was not uncomfortable with me sitting next to her.
So now we get his side of the most serious part of this whole situation, which is the series of events that led up to the alleged sexual assault. And as he says it, there was nothing, off. There wasn't anything in the air. They were just sitting beside each other. It was all friendly, and there was no ulterior motives.
And eventually, 2 of the people that came to the hotel room left. So then it was just down to me, Dream, my online friend, Katie, Katie's best friend, and a 6th mutual friend. Next, she says, this is a quote, resorted to playing games on her phone to avoid the awkward situation. Now, I just don't see how this is the case. She's implying that she is using her phone to essentially escape, such an awkward scenario that she's in. But that's just not how it happened. And this is why. She brought up the phone game as kind of a point. The game was honestly the central point of the interaction at this part of the night. It was a very social thing. She was passing the phone around. We were all playing the game and bantering about it, just having fun with the game.
So it's basically just a word of mouth off at this point. Whatever she says happened, he says, nuh-uh, actually this happened, or this didn't happen, or it happened this way, or that way. And honestly, there's no evidence either way to prove it 100%, so you can't really solidly believe either way. If you're just going off of the response videos, I have some stuff coming up after the response video that I think will sway the opinion.
She was laughing and playing with everyone. And yeah, I'm not really sure why she phrased it like this. We actually continued to send each other high score updates even weeks after the event. To add further context to this moment, we were all actually sitting on the couch that was in the hotel room playing this game on her phone. And during this, me and Katie were at the far end of the couch and we were cuddling together. We had been cuddling for, I'd say, around an hour at this point, playing the game, talking, and just having fun. And for clarity, I had my hand around her waist above her clothes.
And now we get to the part where the alleged sexual assault happened in this story, in this little timeline here. And as he would put it, his side of the story is that they were cuddling for over an hour up to this. She was showing no indication that she was uncomfortable, that she didn't like what they were doing, and that he hadn't even, like, it's not like it was a sudden spur of the moment. He just put his hand under her clothes.
So with her statement where she's saying that she's resorting to playing games on her phone, I just don't really understand it. And I think that the picture that she's painting is really dark, when in reality she seemed very happy with the situation, was having a good time. Another quote from her stream I want to address, she says, "There was more alcohol in the room and we were encouraged to drink some more as they offered the bottles to us. They said they would join us in drinking and insisted on drinking games. They had already been drinking before they arrived. They were drunk," and the way this is phrased, it makes us out to look like we're kind of preying on them.
That's a point that I feel is worth highlighting and stopping on for a second, is the fact that he says Katie and her friends were already drunk before they arrived, therefore that they weren't the ones who were purely encouraging them and trying to prey on them by getting them drunk only with the alcohol they are giving them. But to that point, I think it more so makes it seem like it would have been easier for them to just keep getting them more and more drunk, because they were already drunk, which would incline them to want to drink more. Because once you're drunk, it's easier to keep drinking more and more and more, and to the point where you just completely black out. I'm not insinuating anything here. I'm not saying that that's what they did. They'd seen they were drunk and took advantage of them. I'm just saying that, for the record, him saying that they were drunk before they arrived, it doesn't prove anything in regards of him getting them drunk. He still had alcohol that they presumably drunk, because people were drinking in this environment. They were playing drinking games, so he still supplied alcohol to a minor.
So then, this is when her most important claim happens. I'm just going to read the quote. She says, "Out of nowhere, I felt him slip his hand under my clothes, sitting next to me on the couch, in front of everyone. He disguised it with a simple, 'Are you ticklish?' I coughed out a no, and still staring at my phone, I was overly aware of the fact that we were in front of other people. The fact that everyone else was sitting around us, watching us, including my best friend, and that his hand was inching further to places I hadn't asked it to be. Again, as I mentioned before, we had previously been cuddling on this couch for around an hour, but I did place my hand on her waist under her shirt. The way it's phrased makes it sound like it just happened out of nowhere."
So now we've made it to the most sickening part of these allegations, the part where she says that George abruptly and all of a sudden kind of slid his hand up her skirt and was acting all playful and trying to disguise it by asking if she was ticklish, which this is where the sexual assault takes place. And his side of the story is that they were cuddling for up to an hour before that, and then it all just like very slowly built up and ramped up to him putting his hand under her clothes around her waist.
When in reality, we'd been cuddling for over an hour at this point, and it was not out of nowhere. It was also around half an hour until I started moving my hand further up. And the way it's phrased just makes it seem like it happened pretty instantly and pretty quickly. There was nothing quick about it. It was very slow. And I was very cautious about it and making sure that she was comfortable throughout the process.
So he's not denying that the things that she says happened did happen. He's just saying that they happened in a very different consensual way, as opposed to her saying that it was not consensual whatsoever and that it was sexual assault.
And very slowly got more intimate. I've always been overly cautious with consent, and this is not just because I'm a creator. I've been like this since before I was a creator, and I think that's just the way I am and just the way it should be.
I just want to say for the record, he says he's overly cautious about consent, but it doesn't seem that he's overly cautious about confirming someone's actually the age that he thinks they are.
Again, the quote that she said, he disguised it with a simple, "Are you ticklish?" I coughed out a no. She's implying that it's with malicious intent, and that she coughed out a no would also imply that I should be able to tell that she was uncomfortable with it. She says, later, he made a game out of my embarrassment where he would touch me in certain areas to make me lose the game I was playing. Now, I actually remember this quite vividly. I remember she was playing the game, and there were parts where it would be very easy to lose if you were distracted. And she's right, I did do that. There were points where she was playing the game, and she was at a point where it was easy for her to mess up, and I would, for example, tickle her or like squeeze her, and when I did this, she would laugh, she would turn around and smile at me, or she would play fight with me because I had just made her lose the game.
So those are the most crucial details of this story. That's his perspective of it. That's all I'm going to show of that. You should go watch the whole thing for yourself if you want. I'm going to skip to the end now and show you a clip to finish off this whole serious conversation, pre-recorded stream he did.
I think it seems very likely that after 8 months of you being around friends that hate me and my friends and constantly talking badly about us publicly as well and privately, I don't know what they say privately, but can't be any better than what they say publicly. Obviously, that is going to affect the way that you view the experience, and it's going to make you look at it differently. You're going to second guess it. You're going to be thinking about it, and clearly it changed the way that she thought about it.
So at the end, he's talking about how, like, what he thinks might have happened here, and he's saying that he pretty much credits her opinion changing on the conversation or the situation, her feelings on the situation changing because of who she was hanging out with, and that the people she was hanging out with and her friends hated him and his friends, which would be the dream team people, because who really does like them? But that doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. But that's what he's saying is he's attributing to her perspective on the situation changing and her feeling like what happened didn't actually happen.
I just think it's completely unfair to judge me and my actions based on how you feel about it now, 8 months later, versus how you felt at the time.
And that right there is a crazy quote. That is a wild quote. It's unfair to judge him on how you feel about the situation 8 months after it happened, as opposed to how you felt about it when it did happen. You don't think she could have just been excited to be hanging out with someone that she idolized and that she looked up to, and that in the moment she maybe didn't think things were so bad, but then looking back on it retrospectively, she realized that she might have been taken advantage of according to her story, her allegations? But no, it's unfair for her to change her mind on how she feels about something. Whoa-wee. Now we can move on to some supporting facts. So we're going to start with a clip from Max GG's, who is a friend of Katie Bugs, and he even says in this clip that he got permission to talk about this, so let's just take a peek.
I asked Katie if she thought that this was okay to say. I have complete permission from Katie to speak about this whenever she's drunk. Usually she's very cheery and she loves her friends, and so when I saw her down, I knew it was for a reason. I walked over to her and I comforted her and I said, "Katie, like, what's wrong? Why are you sad? I don't, we're with all our friends. What's the matter?" And something I'd never really spoken about this is that Katie, as I hugged Katie like through tears, like tried to cough up that GeorgeNotFound had assaulted her. Fucking wrong that. They're trying to use their platform to make this narrative like Katie's mind changed. Somebody changed Katie's mind after the fucking assault to make them look bad. I was there 3 weeks after Katie was assaulted by GeorgeNotFound, or 4 fucking weeks or whatever, and she cried in my fucking arms.
And that is one thing that remains very strange to me, is that George is saying that it's not fair that she is changing her mind after the situation, like she's not allowed to feel differently about something, insinuating that her friends, I guess including him because he's one of her friends that doesn't like that group, is changing her mind and warping her perspective, making her feel differently about this situation than she did previously when it happened. Whenever it's actually far more believable that she was blinded at the moment of being around someone she idolized, some, star in her eyes, a celebrity, and then after reflecting on it and, rationally thinking about it in a rational state of mind, not being drunk, being sober, actually being able to think about everything that happened, then realizing how you feel about it, I feel like that's a way more believable thing than her having her mind changed by her friends. But it wasn't just one of Katie's friends who responded, came out and said something about the situation. Apparently Dream made a statement, and I'm not going to read any of this. You can pause it and read it if you want. But these are some screenshots from what Dream said, apparently. And then Katie Bugs also came out and posted another update in her Discord, and I'm not going to read it, but at the end of it, she says that she'll be back in about a week, with her final stream response and message to everyone about the situation and bigger issue at hand, because there's a lot to say before moving on or healing. And she actually posted another statement, which is her addressing George's stream, just talking about the points he made and rebuttaling it and all that kind of stuff. And she also posts some screenshots about the situation to further, support her side. And basically, she just goes through every single one of the points she made initially that he responded to, and then is responding to them again, clarifying it up, adding evidence and screenshots to support what she's saying. And then it ends off with any laughing she did with his hands under her clothes was out of nerves, because she didn't think cuddling would result to that. And her shock left her speechless, because she had never been to a guy's hotel room, never done anything sexual, and never expected that cuddling meant what it did. I didn't know if this was normal or not. You touched me for the first time. So at this point, there's a lot going on with this situation. There's a lot of moving parts. I'm honestly not too sure what to make of it myself. This is just completely my opinion. This is not me being neutral anymore. This is just what I think after going through everything. It seems to me that George is trying to be manipulative in a way, mainly just from that one line of him saying that she's not allowed to change her mind on how she feels about this now. That's really the main thing that's making me think that he is the one in the wrong, and makes me more so to incline to believe Katie's accusations. Because one, there doesn't seem to be any ulterior motives as to why Katie would do something like this, unless you're saying that it's for attention. Because to be fair, people have accused other creators of stuff like this for attention before, or just for seemingly no reason. But it doesn't seem like she has ulterior motives. Overall, it just seems like what happened is that she was starstruck. As she puts it, she said she felt lucky to be in that situation. Even after he touched her, she said she felt lucky, and that anyone or a lot of people would be, they would do anything to be in the position she was in. But then once she was actually able to reflect on it in a calm and, not drunk state of mind, she felt differently on it and realized that she didn't want it, and she feels she was sexually assaulted. And the last thing I want to say is that even if she did lie about her age and he did think she was 21 and she gave no indication that she was actually 18, that still isn't an excuse for her to be sexually assaulted. That isn't an excuse for anything to happen to her that she says happened to her, just because she lied about her age. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I think I've said everything I want to say, talked about everything I wanted to bring up here. I might have missed some things. I don't know. It's 5 a.m. when I'm recording this. I'm not fully awake right now. But other than that, I'll catch you in the next one.